Hello guys, it's BYG Agami back with another video, and today we're going to be doing a new series on my channel, and it's pretty much where I dissect, break down, analyze, react, and give my thoughts on the Yu-Gi-Oh manga. Now today we're going to be breaking down volume 1 chapter 1 called the God Puzzle, and I've been holding this series off for a couple of months, but let's get straight into the chapter. The first thing we see in this manga chapter is Yugi stating that this is the day that he is going to solve the Millennium Puzzle. We see Trishan or Joey. Now I'll call them by their English and Japanese names because I'm used to the English names and you guys are used to it, and some of you guys are used to the Japanese names, so it's only fair. And getting back on topic, we see Trishan and Joey's design and they look really weird. Honestly, Trishan has one of the most derpiest faces I've ever seen. The Millennium Box has a riddle on it. Puzzle boxes can't be seen, but you haven't seen it. And a buddy of Yugi's asks him if he wants to play basketball, and the little innocent Yugi says I'm fine, and states that every time he joins he loses. On the next page we see Hondo or Trishan take away the Millennium Box from Yugi, and then he chucks it to Joey. And from seeing Yugi's reaction on them taking it away, Joey knows that this is valuable. And also when Yugi's jumping around, Joey gets irritated by that and he goes straight to Yugi's face and tells him, I'll teach you how to become a man. And Tim does that, Joey, not you, so sit down. Joey then says, Yugi, give me everything you got and I'll give you back your box, which he is implying for Yugi to try to fight him. The next line Yugi states really does show how pure-hearted he is as a character. Yugi says, Jinochi, I hate fighting and violence, which honestly I love that Kaz did that from the start. They all three have an exchange talking about what is in the box. Joey opens up the box and is like, yo, what is this freaking trash, and throws it to Honda-kun, and Anzu aka Taya comes in for the rescue. Both Jinochi and Honda are scared of Anzu and they literally shout Mazaki, and Yugi is very excited and says Anzu. We get a little backstory on Anzu and Yugi. Yugi states that this girl is Mazaki Anzu, a friend I've had since elementary school, and even a little description about her, which I find very interesting because it's like a play where they state what the person is like in the description about Taya. She is very hard-headed but a wonderful person, which we'll find out later on in the manga series. Anzu states that picking on weaker people, you guys are the dumb ones. I like this because it shows Yugi lacks confidence. Now we already tell from the beginning how he looks and just the way he acts, and this is good because it's textual evidence. Textual evidence is always better, and I like how they have that little Scooby-Doo reference in there about you nosy woman, this isn't over, we'll remember you, because that's what the villains always did in Scooby-Doo. After the gang would catch the person, by the end of it they would always say, if it wasn't for you meddling kids I wouldn't have got away with it, something similar to that. And also by the way they were drawn running. The following page is Anzu talking about the school boys, and she talks about basketball isn't meant for looking up girls' skirts, and the inner teen of Yugi kicks in. So GG on that, Yugi. I consider him the king of games in that sense. Anzu then asks Yugi what's in the box. Yugi says it's a secret, and for Anzu to keep it a secret, which I like because it shows the chemistry of these two. Yugi tells Anzu that he trusts her, already giving the Yogo shipping fans the ship, so this page is very important. So I want you guys to really pay attention to what I'm about to say. Anzu gets to look at the puzzle and she talks about how aesthetically looking it is, and asks what are these parts. Yugi says it's a puzzle, it's never been completed before and doesn't know what the outcome of the shape will be. States it's a thing that can be seen but you haven't seen it. And as soon as I read this, the first thing that came to mind was the Joey duel, and I'll post a picture of what Joey said in the Japanese dub. Same concept. Yugi tells Taya that he lives in a game shop, referring that Anzu has never been over Yugi's house, and the Millennium Puzzle was just in the corner of the room. So Yugi's grandfather just left it there for years and years, and also says that he thinks of it as a memento of his grandfather. Anzu thinks Yugi's grandfather dies, and we would most likely believe that because without any of the prior knowledge about Yogo, the anime series, all the other movies, etc., we would have came into this mindset of wow, Yugi's grandfather died because Anzu talked about it. She says that that's why it's so precious to him, and we get some info about the puzzle that it could grant one wish, and that the puzzle was found in Egyptian ruins. Yugi says it's engraved with strange symbols, and says what they guess that it means that the person who solves the puzzle will have a wish like a Dragon Ball, and Kaz has stated that he likes Dragon Ball, so it's cool to see Dragon Ball referenced early on in the manga, and it's most likely because DBZ ended in 1995 and the Yogo manga was created in 1996, so it's sort of like an honor, like a tribute or something like that. But Yugi understanding that, I feel like, is more of a sense than just guessing, because the thing is he doesn't understand those hieroglyphics or those Egyptian writings, so I feel like it's like spiritual or like some mind thing that tells him that he can solve it. Like he's the only person that can really understand what it means, but that's just me guessing. Yugi states that he's been trying to solve this puzzle for 8 years and still hasn't completed it. Yugi Yugi thinks about it and it brings him down, and Anzu says, keep at it Yugi, you'll get that wish, and winks at him, giving him that motivational drive hormonally and physically and emotionally. And then Anzu is like, what's your wish? Yugi's like, it's completely classified. Then it fades to Junichi and Honda. They call Yugi as a nerd and Anzu as a nosy woman, and then we see this menacing bully. And then Junichi and Honda, especially Junichi, says that picking on weaker people, and while Junichi said that, Trishan and Joey bump into that dude. So pretty much what they were doing is talking about how Anzu said that picking on little kids, and then bam, they just bumped into the dude. And then the big dude was like, what do you mean picking on? And Joey, like a dumbass, said, I might have meant you, so move it. Now before we move on to what happens, I really want to talk about how stupid Junichi is by saying that this dude is literally 7 foot something. I'm personally not that tall compared to that dude. Now if someone came up to me like that, I'm doing whatever they say or I'm dipping. Honda even tells Joey to pick better fights with better people. Now let's get back to the story. We figure out his name is Yushio from Trishan stating it, and the backstory on Yushio is that he's a person that enforces the school rules on everyone. After the whole Yushio encounterment, Joey is shown stealing the main piece of the puzzle, and Junichi tells us he stole it. He says that while he was looking at the treasure box, he snatched it. Joey also says that this puzzle is useless without it, which is a plot hole because how would Joey know about that? Or maybe it's just common sense because there's a piece missing and it's not fully in effect. Junichi throws the piece in the ocean or that river area because he says that without this, his riddle becomes a treasure. The school bell rings and Yushio comes up to Yugi asking if he's ever been bullied. Yushio introduces himself through that way and says he's from the morals committee, and he asks Yugi a question. As I previously said, has anyone been picking on you? Yugi's like, nah, and grips Yugi from the shoulders and says, I'm your bodyguard Yugi. And Yushio behind Yugi says, I found a good target. The next page skips to Yugi's grandfather's game shop and it looks really nice. Yugi's about to walk in and he sees Anzu, who has been following Yugi what it seems like, and she says, it's been a while since I played over your house. But the thing is, earlier on in the manga, Yugi says that my grandfather owns a game shop, so I guess it was stated for the fans and not for her. And we see Grandpa, the man of the year, his name is Moto Suguroto, and he is the owner of the Kame game shop, and I'm sorry if I pronounced Kame wrong, and which could also be inspired from Dragon Ball Z by the Kame house. And in the manga, Suguroko means a dice game and Yugi means a game. And when Anzu thought Yugi's grandfather died on it being a memento, Yugi said he meant someday. Grandpa says, Anzu, it's been a while since I saw you, and he says her chest has grown and it keeps on growing. For someone that old to have a mindset of its teen, it's kind of shocking. Yugi takes this puzzle up into his room and says, Grandpa, can you make tea? And I think her English name was created from that line. Grandpa then talks about that it takes an intellectual person to put together the Millennium Puzzle and says it's impossible for you. We later get a backstory on the puzzle, which is called the Millennium Puzzle. In the early 1900s, by an English archaeology team, took it from a burial of the tomb of a pharaoh, and afterwards everyone involved died randomly. So I really do enjoy this because we get a foreshadowing of Yami Yugi, and what I notice is that this chapter has a very good foreshadowing and very minor backstory, but keeps the fans interested. So props to Kaz on that. And as for each character getting development, the next page is Yugi explaining that the last person was screaming something about a shadow game, which is also another foreshadowing of something that's going to happen later on in this chapter. And Yugi's very curious about a shadow, and the engraved symbols on it say, to the one who controls me, I will give dark wisdom and strength. And Yugi is proud because of his wish will come true. Yugi later shown trying to solve the Millennium Puzzle but simply fails at it. Now I really want you guys to look at Yugi's room. We see the car, we see the books, the trail, really showing that Yugi has his child mindset. And throughout frustration, Yugi falls asleep. The following day, Yushio comes to Yugi saying, follow me, and he shows Yugi a beat up Junichi and Honda. This following page is very important because we see Yushio saying, I'm your bodyguard and listen to me, I'm doing a good job. Yugi is so pure hearted, he says it's cruel, and Junichi is like, I knew it was you, Yugi, thinking that Yugi did it. Yugi's like, I didn't do it though, why would I do something like this? Yushio's about to attack Honda and Junichi, but Yugi jumps in the top, and Yushio is very much shocked. He's like, why would you protect these people that bullied you, Yugi? And Yugi's like, I can't do that, these are my friends, even though these douchebags bullied him literally 2 pages before. Yugi's just too kind. Yushio's like, I'll take my bodyguard fee to 200,000 200,000 yen, which is $1,600 in US, which is still a lot of money. The following page is Yugi taking a hook from Yoshio as a friendly reminder. Now what I mean by hook is a punch, right? Junochi is really shocked that Yugi is sticking up from them, and Junochi states something very interesting on Yugi. He states that he's always been so quiet, never resisting even when we teamed up on him. Yugi, whilst flying in the air from Yoshio's Dempsey hook, says, I made a wish for a friend that would never betray me, and I'll never do that to them. Generic Yogo bullshit. Yoshio gives Yugi literally one day to get that 200k, and this page is literally the spark of Yugi and Joey's friendship. Really starts from here, so I enjoy that. The next page is Yoshio saying that pain is nothing, I can make it much worse. It shows him with a knife at his mouth saying he could use this, and Yugi, I can make it much worse. And Yugi says, I can't beat him in 100 years. He's so much bigger and stronger than me. There's nothing that I can do. This is brilliant because it's a foreshadowing to Tim, which really cements the low confidence that Yugi has. Where Yugi opens the jar up, it's $13.34, which isn't shit, and it converts to 1,656 yen. But let's skip to the next page. Yugi is working on the puzzle, but is questioning, why is he working on this? This isn't the right time, dude. But with coming up with nothing, Yugi's mind starts to solve the puzzle. His mind becomes more clear. He begins saying that this fits here, and this, that. And this is my personal take on it. I feel that the puzzle or spirit within was calling for him to solve it, and that's why it became easier, so he proceeds to solve the puzzle. He literally just needed one more piece, but sadly Junochi threw it through the window. Yugi takes apart his whole room looking for it and says his wish will never be completed, and basically all those 8 years of hard work goes down the drain. And then it skips to Grandpa sneaking behind Yugi, a sad Yugi, and says to Yugi that it looks like you finished the puzzle. Yugi states, no I didn't, Grandpa, I was so close. Grandpa gives a little speech to Yugi and says, you worked 8 years on this, you put your hopes and dream into this, have a little bit more faith, your dreams will come true. And he gives the missing piece to Yugi. One thing I really like about this chapter, in my opinion, is that I'm getting a lot of memories to the episode 1 called The Heart of the Cards of Duel Monsters. And this moment reminds me when Kaiba has Yugi cornered up their first duel in the whole Duel Monsters anime. Yugi isn't having faith in his deck. Grandpa, who is severely injured, says through a spiritual way, for someone believing in faith, they're giving up too fast. These moments share a lot of things in a sense of Yugi is backed up in a corner with this whole Yoshio problem, but Grandpa was not the only help in this situation. Grandpa Moto says, Yugi, one of your friends came by the shop and gave me the puzzle piece, and the following event is Yugi asking who was it, but thank you to whoever did it. Grandpa spills the beans and said his name is Junochi, and Junochi said to keep it a secret, and Grandpa also says, so some dude was giving you a problem, his name is Yoshio, and Grandpa slips in the 200,000 yen in Yugi's bag, so we can infer that Yugi's grandpa is semi-wealthy. He was able to gather $1,000 and no sweat. Yugi's like, this is the moment of truth, and the Millennium Puzzle finally be completed. And we see the puzzle clip together and a shine occurs, and we see these circles coming from the puzzle and going straight into Yugi's mind. Now what I personally think is that this is the link from a Tim's soul entering Yugi's mind, but I may be wrong, I really don't know. It might be vice versa. It's so complex, but pretty much what it is one can leave the body and the other has to stay in the puzzle, so they're linking and they're becoming one in a sense. But I may be wrong, I really don't know. As for Grandpa walking away, he says that the one who completes the puzzle will inherit the Shadow Games and dispense justice to all and judge evil, and these words are from the ancient Book of Dead. Now what this means is Yugi will inherit the Shadow Games, aka meaning he will be able to use them, and when they say dispense justice to all, it's basically helping out people. Judge evil is simply he will decide if it's bad or not. The next image has a dark presence to it, and it looks like Yugi's getting possessed. Yugi calls up Yoshio telling him to meet him at the school, and Yoshio confronts Yugi and says, where is the 200,000 yen at? And to be completely honest, a Tim or Yami Yugi looks scary as fuck. Like personally, if I saw him in real life, I would not meet him. I would rather meet normal Tim. Yami tells Yoshio that he brought 400,000 yen by mistake, which is weird since Grandpa gave him an extra 200,000 unless he knows about the Shadow Games, so there is something you can think about. But Yami's like, let's play a game, and if you Yoshio win, you will get more than 200,000 yen. And he says, the only thing we need is that the knife you're hiding. Now, the following rules for the Shadow Game is that each player takes the turns by placing money on top of their hand and stabbing the money with their knife, and basically all the money that goes into the players that stab the knife. So basically if you stab the money, all the money that gets stabbed, you take it, and as for the opponent, they take the remainder that hasn't been stabbed. So basically they're both getting something at the end of it, and when there is no more bills left, the individual with the most money is the winner. And side note, if they stab their hand, they instantly lose the game, and they give the opponent all the money they won. Yami, after stating the rules, says, "Sound fun, eh?" Like what? How does that sound fun? This Yami comes off as pure insanity, but he has a filter in a sense. He's doing it for good, but I don't like the way he's executing it by basically killing people, or people can die from it, from what it seems. On this page we see a Tim, and as I said earlier, with him having a filter, Yami addresses one more rule, and if you break a rule you will be cursed. Yushio's like, let's start it, whatever. And what I noticed is that Tim is a prodigy, but he's sort of coming off as he's a newbie in a sense, because he's sweating and he's focused, and he has less bills on his life. He gave the strategy out to Yushio, saying that I used a lot of my strength, but not many stuck. Now he might be trying to trick Yushio just from the face he made, and take note of this. Each bill is 10,000 yen, which equates to around $80. You'll use too much strength and stab all the way through it, and the meaning of this game is to control your greed, which basically shows that Yami isn't greedy, and there's really no point for him to be greedy as well. Like literally, this is the first time he's been walking the planet in 3,000 years. He can't buy a camel anymore. Yushio just ignores Yami's advice, and the money from Yushio is racking up even more. He's making more than 100,000 and says more strength is fine. And Yami's like, as long as the game goes on, it will be harder for you to control your strength. As Yami's turn is over, Yushio once again uses a lot of strength, but once he's about to lunge the knife into the money, he's like, what? He can't relax his hand, and he states, I'm using too much strength, and he can't control his hand, and he gets all sweaty and stuff, and is like, I'm going to stab through my hand. And Yami later says a shadow game reveals a true person's character, and this determines their fate, and that's what Grandpa meant earlier on. I mean, Yami's like to Yushio, if you don't control your own greed, you won't be able to stop your own pressure and how much you put into the knife lunge. Yushio still doesn't listen to Yami and says that I'm going to use my full strength, and says there's a way to get to all the cash and not hurt my hand. And I'll be giving a little bit more of a deep analysis of Yushio later on, but instead of stabbing the bills, he tries to stab Yami with the knife, but Yami jumps out of the way and says, just as I thought, you couldn't follow the rules. Yami's forehead lights up with an eye, and Yushio is sweating hardcore and says, what's that eye on your forehead? And Yami says the eye can see nothing but what is in your heart. You're a greedy bully who hurts my friends and tries to steal money from them. And since Yushio cheated, he gets the penalty of the game, and now all he's thinking about is money. And Yami says that the object of your greed will be all that your eyes can see, and Yami then says they must have a happy ending. So Yushio's greed is basically all about money, and that's what he's going to think about from now on. And I was really confused why he was thinking money 24/7 until a lot of it was cleared up on the next page. Yugi is now present, and when we see Yushio thinking about money, it's actually leaves. That wasn't legit money, that was brilliant writing. And then it skips to Yugi entering school, and Jinochi comes up to him, and they're talking about their injuries and how they feel. And Jinochi's like, my treasure is in plain view, but you can't see it, so I can't show it to you. And Yugi's like, it's in plain sight, but it's invisible. But Jinochi tells him it's his friendship, because Yugi and Jinochi are visible, and his friendship is visible as well. Now, what they mean by that being visible is because Yu and Jo, which means friendship, it's a combination of Yugi and Joey's name in Japanese, and it ends off with them going to class. What an amazing chapter to start this series off. My thoughts on it is that it has amazing foreshadowing, and the fact that it ends off with something similar to what Yugi said in the beginning about a treasure can't be seen, but you haven't seen it, and Joey says something like that, and the end is great. What I do want to say is that each character feels nice, and we get a backstory on everything that was necessary, and I really did enjoy this chapter. The introduction of that gang is really good in my opinion. I'm really fond of Grandpa and what he does, and also seeing Yugi's low confidence from the start is really good, and I'm really excited on what he turns into in this manga. As for Yami's introduction, it's perfect because we get this interesting character, and we get no proper story, and we get no proper backstory on him, except for like about how he's an ancient pharaoh, but we don't know that he's an ancient pharaoh yet. Anzu's introduction came off as she was a very dominant woman, and she has some sort of backstory with Yugi. Hondo was okay, but I wish he got more screen time. Now I'm going to end this video off with Yushio. Yushio is a very ignorant character if you look at it. The shadow game they had, Yami was clearly stating what to do for Yushio to win. Yushio's greed and ignorance was the thing that came in, so he didn't listen. His ignorance is what led him to defeat as well as his greed. And about Yami knowing that Yushio video was about to stab him, I honestly think that it was because he was predictable. But this is my review of the chapter 1 called The God Puzzle. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day. And if you guys are interested in more reviews like this, be sure to subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh content and have a great day.